Thank you for joining today's webinar, Revenue Cycle Reporting, a Comprehensive Overview. Today's speaker is Kathy DeLaSue, Senior Client Manager with NextGen Healthcare. Kathy, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Kathy DeLaSue here. Thank you all so much for joining today. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I have been with NextGen Revenue Cycle Services for almost 17 years. I'm going on my 17th year. And one of the presentations that I love to do and train folks on is the reporting in NextGen. When I started almost 17 years ago, I really wish that somebody had taught me these basic tools in NextGen reporting, as I find them so valuable. And I'm so excited to be able to share these with you today. They are the fundamentals. It's basically everything you needed to know in life you learned in kindergarten. Well, everything you needed to know about maneuvering around in NextGen reporting, you're going to learn today. So I do like this slide, these cute little puppies on the screen. They look timid and a little bit shy. So if you've been putting off running that report because you are just like, where do I start? Well, what? After today, you're not going to be running from putting off that report. You're going to be running to the report. So I'm super excited today to go through all of this with you. So after today, what you're going to know is, why is reporting even so important in revenue cycle management? We're going to get to know the basics that is going to carry you through all reporting in NextGen. And the way that we're going to do that is through the fundamentals of the settings list. That's where we're really going to spend the bulk of the time, because that is going to carry you through all the different types of reports that are available in NextGen. And then we'll go through some of the different types of reports that are available, so you know where to go for what, just generally speaking. And then if you're in revenue cycle, then you probably want to run some accounts receivables reports. There's two basic different kinds of revenue cycle reports. They give you two different perspectives of revenue cycle. I find value in both of them, and I want to show you the difference of those today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I am going to take myself off camera because I do use a couple different screens and I look a little crazy shaking my head and my eyes are going crazy. So bye for now, but I'll keep on talking. So sit back and watch the screens. So here we go. All right, so why is reporting so very important? I've always said that if you can't report on something, if you can't quantify something, it makes it extremely difficult to manage it. So the very first important reason to be able to report on revenue cycle is to be able to manage it. So the first thing that I have there is the ability to analyze the process as a whole and its individual parts. Also, reporting allows you to know trends. Is this a kind of a one-off thing? Are we trending up? Are we underperforming? Are we overperforming? If so, why? And what lessons can be learned? What takeaways? How do we need to course correct? Trending is also very important as well in revenue cycle. And then it allows you to be more proactive than to be reactive. So if you see the trending in underperformance, then you can start having proactive decisions rather than reactive. Revenue cycle I have there is a continuous and ongoing process in which refinement and improvement are always possible. So reporting, reporting, reporting. Okay. So as promised, we have basically three topics that we're going to get into. The first one is reporting settings and filter options. This section is extremely detailed. This presentation is going to come out to you. You will have this, I think, Lori. Oh my gosh, if I'm saying that and it's wrong, I'm in trouble. But I believe this presentation is sent out to everybody. So I want you to just take this in. But these are the key. This is the foundation of the house. This is what you really, really need to take into. The very first thing when you are accessing the NextGen application and you have to decide, where do I run a report from? You have the option to either go into the PM application, which I have circled in the center in red on the left side. You can go into Enterprise PM and you can access reports. Or on the right side, you can see there's something called a report server, and you can actually see report circled in red over there on the report server. So does it even make a difference where you run a report from? Heck yes. Yes, it definitely makes a difference where you run the report from. So on the report server, you basically have prior day, anything prior day information. So the report server is not real-time information. The report server is anything from the night before, so the last backup period that you have. Why on earth would you not want to run everything in PM where everything is current? And the reason is, if you're running a very big report, which most accounts receivables reports are massive, it's a massive data pool to take the accounts receivables and to data extract from them. If you are doing that, it is very tough on the system, and it can slow down the overall system performance for every single user. So if you're running a report that's going to be a heavy lift on the system, you definitely want to pull the report from the report server, because that's not in live production. So you won't affect anybody's system. It won't cause any system slowness. Now, if you're running an activity report that's not accounts receivables related, that can be run from the Enterprise PM system. If you're running transactional detail, you want to see current payments posted, that is not a heavy pull on the system. You can run those in Enterprise PM. So basically speaking, I say any accounts receivables report, report server. Anything else, you're pretty much okay running in Enterprise PM. So it does make a big difference. All right, settings list, reporting fundamentals. We are going to go through these 5 different categories in depth. We're going to review the columns, filter 1, filter 2, sorting, and totals. In the first one, in columns, when you open up either of the reports and you select a report in the reporting feature in NextGen, this box populates. You're going to see the settings list and a whole bunch of things listed under that settings list. And these 5 things that we're going to go through are really the items that are going to carry through every single type of report that you run in NextGen that are going to help you identify, sort, and total any report that you run in the system. So the first one here is columns. The columns, as you can see, are showing there, and there's check marks next to the column name that are going to populate on the report output that you run. Every time you open up a report in NextGen, it inherently decides what it thinks you're going to want on that type of report. In this example, it thinks that for an insurance aging analysis, you're going to, of course, want the practice name, location name, payer name, rendering name. All of those are check marked. Now, if you don't want one of those, you can click on the check mark and you can remove the check mark and that column will not appear. Or if you want something that's not marked, you can click on the box next to the column name and put the check mark there, and it will include as a column on your report. So by clicking in the box, the check mark will appear or disappear, and that will be included in the columns that you have on your report. If you let your eyes shift to the right, you're going to see solid blue arrows up and down, and double blue arrows up and down in the middle of the slide. What this will do is it's going to prioritize your columns for your report. In here, you're going to see it from top to bottom, which will determine the order of the column on your report from left to right. So in this order, you're going to have on your report from left to right, practice name, location name, payer name, rendering. Now, if you would like to have practice name, rendering, payer name, and location name in that order left to right, you could click on rendering and click on the blue arrow single and move it up to the position you would want it to be in order of the column name so that it will be in the position you want from left to right on your report. The double blue arrow allows you to shoot it straight to the top, or the double blue will shoot it straight to the bottom. So those blue arrows allow you to order from top to bottom, which impacts your left to right on your actual report itself. And then lastly, on this particular slide, what I want you to see that is available in here and in all of these is you can click on the word find. You can scroll through and look to see if something you want to know is a column in this particular report, and you can search for it. Or you can click on find and do basically a find search of charge, encounter, facility, and it's just basically a search and find to get you to it faster. So there is a find feature in here as well to help you locate the column a little bit quicker. So this is columns. That's going to determine what's available as far as a data option in your reporting pool. So we're going to move down. The next item is your filter 1. And I think of filter 1 and filter 2 as literally like a funnel. And filter 1 is the top of the funnel. It's much wider. And then filter 2 is coming down to the bottom of the funnel where it gets much more narrow. And so that's how I want you to think of filter 1 and filter 2. They both filter, but you can get much more granular in your filter criteria in filter 2. Filter 1 is your beginning filters. That's going to allow you to filter by basically the things that you see on this screen. A lot of date options, of course. Like if you've been running any kind of reports in NextGen, you're like, oh my gosh, posting dates, process date, charge create date, credit create date, lots of date options in the NextGen reporting. Process date, I would say, is the one that I mostly use. I hear most clients use. The processing date is the current system date. That's what I hear the most, and that's what things default to the most as well. So this allows you in an aging report to set this to a process date of whatever you want it to. It allows you to choose different types of aging dates. Maybe you want to see your aging by the actual date of service. Maybe you want to see your aging by the last bill date. Maybe you want to see aging by first bill date. So you have drop-down options in each one of these to filter the report how you want to see the data. In this particular report, you have maybe you want to see everything that's in an unbilled status or everything that's in a rebuild status. Unapplied. One note here, and I have it even listed on here. I forgot that I did that. When you run any kind of aging or accounts receivables report, you always want to exclude your unapplied. And the reason you want to do that is because if you don't, you will see every copay taken at the time of service and then pull down to a line item. You'll see the in and out of the transaction, which is a zero, in your report, which quantifies to nothing. It's just gibberish in the report. So just FYI, any kind of aging analysis or any kind of accounts receivables, exclude the unapplied. It's just a lot of noise. So then you can filter down to aging days. Maybe you want to see everything over 90 days. So you can put a date range in there. So this filter one gives you the opportunity to narrow down your criteria a little bit into what you're looking for in the parameters of your report search. So as I said, filter two, now we're going to get a little bit more narrow in our funneling. And this is really where you can get down to some very, very specific information. So in here, you're going to see again on the right side, you have the find. So you can do a search and find instead of scrolling through and trying to find the information that you want. But I did show you an example. In here, you have most of your column criteria, and you're going to be able to filter down to some very specific information or data criteria that you're looking for. So in this example, I said, in my insurance aging analysis, I actually am looking for dates of service that are specifically from January 1st of 2019 to March 31st of 2019. And so I have filtered it down to that specific data service date range in this report. And as you can see, you do have lots of different options in there that you could filter down to if you're looking for something in particular so that you can get the output report that you're searching for. So filter two allows you to, right there in my example, I have between, but there's some other drill down capabilities that are equal to, less than, or like. So you do have some other options in the drop down for your filter two narrowing down of data. All right, hang in there with me, you guys. We're about halfway through all of these fundamentals in the settings list. So we're moving down, and the next one here is the sorting capability. Now, some of you would like your reports to come out already sorted and totaled for you, looking nice and pretty. The sorting is an option that we have in here that will total, subtotal, great. If sorting is an option for you in the report, in this particular case, I have an example here where you see a green check mark in the column. If you can imagine a grid there under ascending to the right of payer name, I've actually said I would like the report to ascend by payer name and group by payer name. And I get the green check mark there by clicking in the box right where the green check mark is. And if I want to remove the green check mark, I click on the green check mark and it will remove it. So you click in the box to put the green check mark, and you click again in the box to remove the green check mark. This is the one where I'm like, I wish there were some kind of lines there, but once you start clicking, you'll be able to get it lined up just fine. So in this case, I've asked it to group by the payer name. So what I want to show you is what would that do? In this example, I want to show you, I decided to show you an example of, let's group this in the sorting. I asked financial class to ascend by the financial class and group by. And then I would just like it to ascend by payer name. So in this example, if you come to the left side where the actual report output is, the BCBS in bold, that's the financial class. So under that grouping, now it's ascending. It's not grouped, it's ascended. And so it shows Blue Cross Blue Shield And if we look down below, the next thing is Blue Cross Federal. And if you let your eyes keep dropping down, it's a Blue Cross out of area. And so under the Blue Cross grouping of financial class BCBS, then all the payer name items total up to $3,225. I'm going to make one change, one small change, and show you what the difference would be. So my total, $3,225. The only change, do you guys see that? The only change that I made, it's like those pictures where you have to see what's different in the two pictures, and somebody's got a red tie and the other one, they have a blue tie. The only difference, did you guys see, is I put a green check mark in the group by to the right of the payer name. That's the only difference I did. And look how different your report output is. So let's walk through that together. You see on the report side, the BCBS financial class, yes, boom, it's right there. It is grouped by and ascending. Then I have payer name, and I said, I want you to group it. Okay, so it did. It took my Blue Cross Blue Shield, that totals $1,935. Oh, and there's the Blue Cross Federal. Okay, that grouped it, and that's $430. And then finally, my Blue Cross out of area, that totaled $860, and that comes to the same grand total of $3,225. Okay, so just that one difference made the change there visually for the grouping. Now, the last one that I want to show you, same example. We're sticking with the $3,225 here with Blue Cross. Sorry, that came out a little bit blurry on this one here, but I promise you it's the same data we've been looking at here. The totals here in the settings list. On this settings list option, you have the ability, I kept everything in the sorting the same. I said ascending group by financial class, ascending group by payer name. The only difference is I came down to this totals, and I came in here and I said, I want you to total lines only. I don't want to see all the itemizations. I just want to see the totals for each of these payer name groups. And that's exactly what it did. So it took my Blue Cross Blue Shield, $1,935. Blue Cross Federal, $430, and my Blue Cross out of area, $860, and then there's my total again. So just those three things, right, gave me, oops, wrong direction, hang on, right? So here it is, no grouping by payer name. Grouping by payer name included, and then if I just wanted to see the totals, there's the difference. This happens in every single report. The same rules apply in every single report you do, no matter what it is. Very, very important to know. All right, the last item in the settings list that I think is very important for you to know, and it carries through for every single report in NextGen, is you have all these other things. You're like, wait a minute, Kathy. So you talked about columns, filter 1, filter 2, sorting, totals, fabulous. But there's so many other things that are listed under the settings list. What do you do with those? All of those other ones give you a, what I would say, filtering type of capability. And all of those other ones allow you to click on whatever that content is. In the example that I have on the screen is the service items. I just took a sip of my coffee, soothing the throat. In this example for the service items, when I click on service items, the window will pop up that you see on the slide. And I click on the yellow folder that you see. And then when I do that, I click on the yellow folder, and then this service items window pops up. And it allows me to pull up the service items and I can move them from what's available to what I want included in my report. And so it from left to right, of course, how do I move it? If we were in person, I would call on somebody and say, how do I get it over to my included? And somebody would say, oh, Kathy, you click on the blue arrow after you select it over on the available. And I would throw you a Snicker bar, right? Because that's what we do. So you would click on the blue arrow, and let's say in this particular report, you actually just want to see everything that includes in your aging analysis, your therapeutic exercises. Boom, so there you go. You pull in the service item of 97110, you click OK, and now you only have that particular CPT code or SIM code that you are going to pull into your report. So under the settings listing, you can do that for financial class, you can do that for your locations, there's some payer subgroup information in there, patient status, so anything that's available there, you are going to be able to open up that yellow folder. Now, that doesn't apply to columns, filter 1, filter 2, sorting or totals, because those are different, and we just went through all of those other measures. So, all right. Topic 1, we did it. Yay, good job, good job, good job. All right, so we went through the fundamentals. Let's go ahead and look at some of the different report types and the ones that I recommend that you use on a daily, weekly, monthly type of a basis in revenue cycle. So we'll leave this very, very high level. Once you start getting accounting involved in production and productivity, those kind of things, you'll get much more deep into them. But just looking at some basic reports that you use for daily, weekly, monthly, and why you would use those. When you come into the system and you click on reports, you have a drop-down. And the drop-down is going to look very, very different for all of you. It's not going to look like this probably anymore. I probably should update this slide. This is back from several years, and so many upgraded versions of NextGen, the list is much, much longer. There's many more options available in here, but all of these still do hold true in here, and I still use the same reports that, honestly, I used almost 17 years ago. So we've got our bases all covered here. The reports that are in there, general reports, there's some of the EHR holding tank things in there. There's patient demographics, patient insurance, patient statements, general reports. Accounts receivables, we're going to talk more about those. Scheduling reports, tasking reports, health center, ICS. More that we deal with daily, monthly reports. One thing definitely to mention is if you run a report and let's say you spent all this time putting in your columns, the order that you love, the filter 1, filter 2, you have it sorted and totaled and it is beautiful and you spent all this time and you're like, oh no, every time I have to run this report, I have to redo all this? The answer is no. No. You set a report that you have created. You have the ability to memorize it. Shoot, I should have a slide in here. But you can memorize your reports. And let me just check here super quick to see if I do have a spot in here in my slide, and I will show you how to memorize a report. I will not forget to do that. So I will show you how to memorize it and save it. So there's a little floppy disk that you would click on to save your report, so you don't have to start over from scratch. Okay, so let's talk about the different types of reports that are available in here. So daily reports, why would I run daily reports? Generally speaking, I would say your daily reports are going to be for activity tracking, encounter counts, reimbursement details, if you're tracking denials, if you're looking for what kind of insurance offsets you got, more of transactional volume tracking type of activities. So I do have an example here on this slide that shows that in this particular one, I am checking to see, I'm looking for by line items, by reason code, and I'm looking for payments. So I could be looking for denials, reimbursement, offsets, anything like that pertaining to payment activity. And if you go to the second dropdown where it says by line item, by transaction, by encounter, you might be asking, how do I know which one to pick? And so since I knew you were going to ask that question, I put information on this next slide. And my best advice to you when trying to determine what you want to select, either by line item, by transaction, or by encounter, what I would say is, first of all, click on it. Click on it and see if you select line item, is everything in the columns that you're going to want? If you're looking for a specific CPT code, if you click on line item, you're going to see in the columns, yeah, I can get the CPT code information. If you click on by transaction and you're looking for CPT code, yeah, okay, that's available. By encounter, is that in there? Maybe not. Encounter level may not have service items. So there are certain things that are going to be available in one perspective and not available in another perspective. At an encounter level, things are not available that are by line item. What I will say to you, generally speaking, by line item is the most granular. The next would be transaction, and by encounter is the least granular. But encounter level can give you information like patient status, where a line item may not be able to give you that kind of information. So my recommendation and why I put this up here is click in it, see if what you're looking for is going to be a criterion here that it's going to be able to pull that particular data in order to get the reporting information that you're looking for. So the next thing that I would say is, as far as your daily activity, I would say that weekly would probably fall into that too. Anything that you're looking for, activity, tracking volumes, you may do that daily, you may do that weekly. Mostly I do daily reports or monthly reports, and monthly is more so trending. If there's weekly, it could be trending. I don't do a lot of week to week. I do more of daily monitoring of activity and then monthly reports for trending. And a monthly report to look at, I think the one that is looked at by COOs, CFOs, CEOs, as far as revenue, is going to be looking at where did we start the month, what happened during the month, and where did we end the month. And this is the one that I would definitely recommend for that, and that's found under reports. Under monthly, you would go to your change in accounts receivables. I always want the most granular information available, even though this is going to total for me in the example that I'm going to give you, and select by line item. And what this report gives you is I've asked it to do by financial class. I don't know how to get rid of that thumbnail view. I said, what have I done? I said, ascend it and group it and total it by financial class, right? So this is the output of this report, where it gives me where did I begin with my accounts receivables for each of these financial classes. What were the total charge amounts? So I'm going from left to right. The total charges for the particular month that I ran, the total adjustments taken during that processing month, the total payments that were applied to that particular month, any kind of refund activity that transpired during that month. So beginning AR, all the transactional activity that happened, and then that gives me my AR for that particular month. And this one is called the changes in accounts receivables. So that would be a monthly report to see that beginning transpiring activity and then the ending. So those are just an overview of some of the different types of reports that are in NextGen and the different types of reasons you would run those and the cadence and frequency of which I would recommend you run them. The last part, my favorite, accounts receivables. Oh, how do I love to slice and dice accounts receivables reports. There are two that I'm going to show you, and I feel like these two, I like to run them. They both give you the same information, but they give it to you in a different way of looking at them. So I'd like to take the last part of this presentation and to look at them with you and explain to you why I feel like they both have value, even though they give the same information, but they look a little bit different. So let's go ahead and take a look at these particular items. So this one, just to give you on the left-hand side, this is how I got to this report. I went under reports, I selected accounts receivable, I selected aging analysis, I put in my filters and all that I wanted. I gave you on the right-hand side of the slide a snippet of what I selected. The aging analysis is not my go-to, but I do see value in this report. This is primary payer based, and it will give you where the AR sits currently in an insurance 1, 2, tertiary if there is one, or a patient amount. So on the screen, what this tells me, the payer name is the primary payer on the encounter. The secondary name is the secondary insurance on the encounter. I didn't include tertiary. It's rare, but you could pull that into the report as well. Insurance 1, 2, and patient amount tells me where does the AR live at the time the report was run. So in the first line, it says Blue Cross, secondary payer says Aetna. I can see there's $890 in insurance 1, and I can see there's $55.18 that belongs to Aetna right now, and there's $12.68 that belongs in the patient. So looking at that, I would say Blue Cross hasn't paid something out of the gate, a whole dollar amount. I would say that's interesting. Looks like Blue Cross did pay something because Aetna has got something secondary that looks like Blue Cross probably processed. And it looks like maybe something left over from Aetna made its way to the patient, or maybe the patient got something that skipped Aetna, I don't know. Interesting. The one that really catches my eye here is the third one down. Blue Cross primary, Medicaid secondary. I see no balance in the Blue Cross insurance 1. I see no balance in the Medicaid, which is insurance 2. I do see $584.62 in the patient amount for a Medicaid. That makes my hair stand on the back of my neck. I think probably something's not right there, so I'm going to want to go look at that encounter. And then the fourth one down there, Blue Cross Cigna, seems kind of weird to have a whole dollar amount in Cigna in the secondary position. I mean, maybe Cigna should be primary, and that should be corrected on the encounter, you know. So this is a good visual to have, to see all the insurances on an encounter and where the AR is open and lies. Very valuable information. However, the report that I would say I run the absolute most is going to be a insurance aging analysis that runs where the AR is for the current payer. And it's going to tell me what that current payer is, primary, secondary, tertiary, by a COB number on the report. Now, this may freak you out. It kind of freaks people out, but you just got to push through it. If you see on the screen, the way you access this report, reports, accounts receivable, collections, which is like, I'm not looking for a collection bad debt agency. Why would I select collections? It's just under collections. It doesn't mean they're in collections. This is just where this report is. Select collections. That's what you have to do to get to this lovely insurance aging analysis. Just trust me. Do it, do it, do it, do it. So you select this insurance aging analysis, and this is the report that you get. You're going to see here that it only gives me one payer name because I've set, this report gives you the current payer responsibility based, which means where the AR sits right now, it's going to tell you. So if I backtrack to this report, if I ran the insurance aging analysis, it would tell me $890 Blue Cross COB1, Aetna $55.18, COB2. This would say $39.97 Medicare COB2. It would have it singularly lined. That's what the difference is. It just gives it to you in a different perspective. So here, this tells me this is the open AR. I can tell that about halfway down, if you look where I have the blue box around the COB, I see 111. Oh, there's a 2. So that 2, that 99212, that's actually a secondary, a 2. I also have the insurance 1, 2, and 3 amount. You can pull that into the report as well, or you can use the COB indicator, which tells you whether it's primary, secondary, or tertiary. The reason that I really, really, really like this report is because I am a data nerd. I really love to take and not do any sorting, not do any totaling, and I like to take all the data and I like to export it to Excel. And I like to take Excel and I like to do pivot tables and VLOOKUPs, and I like to slice and dice it however I want to in Excel. That really is the way that I take and look at AR. I do not do any kind of sorting or totals for AR reports. I don't. So I wanted to show you that you do have the capability to export any report that you run into Excel out of NextGen. Now, if you have one that's lovely and it's grouped and ascended and totaled and sorted and it's lovely and you want to take that and export that to Excel, great. But if you are a slice and dice kind of person, get rid of all your sorts, get rid of all your check marks in there, get rid of your totals, and let your data be, and then export it to Excel, and that way it's in Excel ready for you to pivot, filter, however you want in the Excel itself. Now, I promised you that I would tell you how do you save a report, and it is right here. If you go to the top here and you follow your icons from the left to the right, the first you're going to see printer with paper coming out the top. Next, you're going to see printer, paper coming out the bottom. You're going to see a magnifying glass. You see the little old floppy disk? That's the save icon. And so you set up a report and you're like, oh, I just love it. I want to keep it forever. You click on the save floppy disk, and it's going to prompt you to save it into a report folder. And you would just name it and save it where you want to save it into the memorized reports, which is one of those options under reports. And you would just go back into memorized reports, go find where you saved it, and then you can run it at any time that you want to. So one, I know I said that was the last thing, but I couldn't stand not showing you one more thing. So this is one that's just kind of fun. So I'm going to leave you a little bit of a teaser for presentation to come. So I'm going to do a second level type of reporting, because if you're really assessing how your overall accounts receivables is doing, this is one of my favorite reports really in NextGen. The receivables, the account receivables analysis, I guess it's called, here by month. The reason that I love this is because it tells me how you're liquidating your AR, which basically will say when you run the report, the charges from a specific processing month, your charge amount here will not change. But it tells me at any given time I run the report, if I want to see, I wonder how we're doing on resolving all the charges from, let's say, July of 2020. And if this report, I would say, was run maybe October 1st of 2020, it's going to tell me how many payments were made by an insurance company, how many payments were made by a patient, how many adjustments were taken by third party or patient, any kind of refund activity, and over to the very far right is the net. The net is the remaining open AR that has not been resolved either through a payment or an adjustment. So it really is telling you how much of your charge activity for a given month, so your charge amount never changes. This report tells you how are you doing on those charges from that period, how much more do you have to go? So if you let your eyes drop down to October of 2019, follow along with me. So we had 15.6 million in charges. Keep going to the right with me. 6.2 million in third-party payments, 573,000 in patient payments, 8.6 million in adjustments, patient adjustments, 170, following through with the different kind of refund activity. So out of $15.6 million in charges in the AR for those charges, there's still $43,000 that is open. And so this really is a good indicator of how quickly you are resolving your accounts receivables. I think this is super valuable. The goal that we shoot for is 90% resolution in 90 days. So this would be a good indicator. You could take this, of course, export it to Excel, right? And then you can put some measures around this to see with some formulas to see if you're hitting 90% in 90 days in the resolution of your charges compared to what's still open to see if you are liquidating and hitting that 90% marker. So that's a little tease. Couldn't help myself. All right, let's bring it home, you guys. Let's wrap it up. So today, as promised, what did you learn? You learned that we need reporting to be able to measure and manage revenue cycle. You have to have it. We use the daily reporting to track volumes and workflow monitoring, production. Monthly reporting really is for trending, making sure we're hitting our KPI measures. Accounts receivables reporting is really to analyze how well we're doing on collectability and resolution of our AR. We hit on the columns, filter 1, filter 2, sorting, and our totals, which are the fundamentals that apply in every single report that you run in NextGen. So I'm going to leave it with 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes for any kind of questions. So I will ask Lori to help triage the questions, if you will. And if I'm not able to answer the question today, we will definitely be able to get back with you. Okay, so here I am again. Hi.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Kathy, so much for that information. If you do have questions, go ahead and enter them in the Q&A panel that is located on your WebEx screen. We had a couple come in about the slides and the recording, so I will include the slides as a PDF when I send out the recording to everyone. So just to clarify those questions, it doesn't look like we have any other questions at this time. I'll give it just a little bit longer to see while you're typing. I don't want to rush anyone. Make sure that we don't miss anything. Okay, we have one come in here. It says, how does history work when applied to aging reports, and do you recommend using it for month-end reports or leaving it unchecked?
Yeah, history would be any kind of encounter that has a golden door. And a golden door means that the encounter balance is 0. Now, one thing, so I would definitely not use history for any kind of end of month, any kind of, the only time that I would use anything in history is to see, I would use history to see, like, if you're getting, how much you're getting paid. If I wanted to look at an encounter in history, I know that that encounter has been made whole. It's 0. I'm not going to get any more money. I'm not going to take any more adjustments. It's in history. It is gone. So sometimes it is good to look at your history to see how much money did I get on that encounter? How much money did I get on these services? It's a way to look at something to see what you did get, because there's nothing left to come in. It's done. That is the only time I would ever recommend looking at history. And maybe one thing too is if you look at something in history and you say, put in your parameters and say, I didn't get a third-party payment, I didn't get a patient payment. So third-party payment 0, patient payment 0, and it's in history status, that means you charged something and you got no money and it's in history status. That's probably not good. So that might be something to run history on.
Okay, perfect. Is there a best practice list of which reports should be run when and how often?
I think that there might be something out there from UGM. There is a way more robust recommendation, like a top 10 recommendation of overall reporting, which isn't specifically revenue cycle, but it is like the top 10 reports. And I think inside of that is like some appointment tracking stuff too. I believe there is something available from UGM that's out there for like the top 10 report recommendations.
So I took the name of the person who asked that question, and I'll do a little digging for you and send you some information once we figure out if there is a list. What feature class were you teasing at the end, interested in attending?
So I am working on, for UGM this year, I'm working on doing a presentation on revenue cycle reporting level 200. And so the criteria is that you should have taken this class, right? Because it's the fundamentals. And I'm building it right now. And it's going to include more of this liquidation type of reporting. And like I talked you through the 90% in 90 days. So I'm going to take that and put it into Excel and show you how I would come, to that. And then I would do more of examples of if I'm looking to find out how much Aetna is paying me for a particular service. How do I find that? How do I get there? And do example-based. That's not, I don't have to depend in that presentation on you knowing how to get there. It's more of this is what I did to get this information. So it's just a little bit higher level, and that's for UGM 2022.
All right, so stay tuned for that class. If we don't have it at UGM, we'll do another webinar so you guys can all join and she can teach us that way.
Yeah.
All right, what is the best report to run to find a true percentage of net collection?
Well, I would say that you would run that receivables analysis, and once you get to 95% resolved, then you could take your collections, your payments divided by your charges, and then see where your gross collection rate is. But there is no sense in trying to calculate your gross collection rate until you've liquidated to at least 95% of your accounts receivables. Because if there's still money to come in, you really don't know where you're at.
All right, perfect. It looks like that is all the questions that we have today. So thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing your expertise. And like I said, I will share out the recording and the slides. You'll probably receive it in the next couple of days. And I just appreciate everyone's participation and attendance in today's webinar. So thank you guys so much.
Bye, everyone. Take care.